My son thought the reflection in the sliding glass door was just the glare of the Florida sun. He thought 68 years of life had made my hands shaky and my mind dull. He was wrong. I saw the small amber vial he pulled from his pocket. I saw him squeeze 3 drops of clear liquid into my iced tea while his wife distracted me with questions about the weather. And when they both turned to grab the pitcher of lemonade from the refrigerator, I did the only thing a father who had just co-signed a $200,000 loan for his son's failing business could do. I switched the glasses. You won't believe what happened next. But before I tell you how my own flesh and blood ended up convulsing on my kitchen floor, let me know in the comments where you are watching from. Hit like and subscribe if you have ever had to protect yourself from someone who was supposed to love you unconditionally. The August heat in Sarasota was brutal. The kind that made the air shimmer above the pavement and turned every breath into a chore. But inside my house, the air conditioning hummed steadily, keeping the temperature at a comfortable 72 degrees. I sat at the head of my dining table, the same spot I had occupied for 23 years, ever since my wife Eleanor and I retired here from Michigan. She passed 4 years ago, pancreatic cancer, quick and merciless. Now it was just me in this 3-bedroom house with the pool I never used and the garden I maintained religiously. My name is Walter Brennan. I spent 41 years as a pharmacist, the last 15 as the owner of 3 drugstores in the Detroit suburbs. I sold the chain in 2008 for $4.2 million. That was the money everyone knew about. What they did not know was that I had been quietly buying waterfront property in Florida since 1989, back when you could get a beachfront lot for what people now pay for a used car. I sold most of those properties between 2015 and 2020. The total came to just under $8 million. Combined with my other investments, I was worth approximately $12 million. But to my son, Kevin, and his wife, Diana, I was just a retired pharmacist, living on Social Security and a modest pension, clipping coupons, and driving a 10-year-old Honda. I let them believe that. I wanted to see if they loved me or my wallet. Kevin was sitting across from me, my only child, 43 years old, with the same dark eyes his mother had and none of her kindness. He was wearing a polo shirt that cost more than my grocery bill for the month, and he kept checking his phone every 30 seconds like he was waiting for a call from the governor. Diana was in the kitchen, her heels clicking on the tile as she pretended to help with lunch. She was 39, blonde, and had expensive tastes that Kevin's real estate business could never support. I watched Kevin pull out the vial. It was small, maybe 2 inches tall, with a rubber stopper. He glanced at Diana. She nodded almost imperceptibly. He uncapped it with practiced fingers and tilted it over my glass of iced tea. 1 drop, 2, 3. My heart should have been pounding. My hands should have been shaking. But 41 years of measuring exact doses, of understanding that the difference between medicine and poison is often just a matter of milligrams, had taught me to stay calm under pressure. I recognized the slightly oily consistency of the liquid. I recognized the way it dispersed in the tea without changing the color. Concentrated liquid lorazepam. Ativan, in that quantity, mixed with the blood pressure medication I took every morning. It would slow my heart until it stopped. It would look like cardiac arrest. Natural causes for a man my age. Diana called out from the kitchen, "Walter, do you want lemon with your tea?" I looked away from Kevin, turning toward her voice. It was the opening he needed. He tucked the vial back into his pocket, looking pleased with himself. "No, thank you," I said. "Just ice is fine." Kevin stood up. "I'm going to wash my hands before we eat," he announced. "The bathroom down here, right?" He knew where the bathroom was. He had been coming to this house for 23 years, but he wanted to give me time alone with the tea. He wanted distance between himself and my body when I collapsed. I waited until I heard the bathroom door close. Diana was still in the kitchen, the sound of her opening cabinets covering my movement. I reached across the table. I grabbed Kevin's glass with my left hand and my glass with my right. The glasses were identical, both filled with the same amber liquid, both sweating condensation in the humid air. I slid them across the tablecloth. The motion took less than 2 seconds. When Kevin returned, wiping his hands on his khakis, his glass was sitting exactly where he had left it, only now it contained 3 drops of death. I picked up my glass and took a long, slow sip. The tea was cold and sweet, exactly as Eleanor used to make it. I let out a satisfied sigh. Kevin watched me drink. I saw his shoulders relax. I saw the tension drain from his jaw. He thought the hardest part was over. He thought all he had to do now was wait. Diana came in carrying a tray of sandwiches. She had made them from the groceries I bought. She set the tray down and smiled at me. That practiced smile that never reached her eyes. "Eat up, Dad," she said. "You need to keep your strength up." I never asked her to call me Dad. She started doing it 3 years ago, right around the time Kevin's business began to fail. We ate in silence for a few minutes. I watched Kevin take a bite of his sandwich. I watched him reach for his glass. He drank deeply, emptying half of it in one gulp. Florida heat makes you thirsty. "So, Walter," Diana said, setting down her fork, "Kevin and I have been talking about your situation." "My situation," I repeated. I let my voice sound confused, hesitant. I played the part of the elderly man struggling to keep up with conversation. "The house," Kevin said. He was chewing as he spoke, bits of bread visible between his teeth. "It is too much for you, Dad. The maintenance, the yard, the pool. You are 70 years old." 68, I corrected him. "Whatever. The point is, we found this amazing community, Vista Gardens. It is assisted living, but not the sad kind. They have activities, a pool, nurses on staff. You would love it." I looked at Diana. She was nodding enthusiastically, like a car salesman closing a deal. "We even talked to their admissions people," Diana added. "They have a unit available next month. All you would have to do is sign over the house to cover the deposit and first year." "Sign over the house," I said slowly. "This house. It is for your own good," Kevin said. He reached for his tea again. He drank the rest of it. "You have been forgetting things, Dad. Last week you called me by the wrong name. You left the stove on twice last month." I had not left the stove on. Kevin had been here both times. He must have turned it on himself when I was not looking. "I do not want to move," I said quietly. "This is my home. Your mother and I built this life together." "Mom is dead," Kevin said bluntly. He set his glass down hard on the table. "She is not coming back. And you need to start thinking about your future. Our future." There it was. Our future. The mask slipping for just a moment. Suddenly Kevin frowned. He brought his hand to his forehead. "Is it hot in here?" he asked. "I feel dizzy." I looked at the thermostat on the wall. "It is 72, I said calmly. "Same as always." Kevin stood up. The chair scraped loudly against the floor. He swayed on his feet. His face was going pale, a gray pallor spreading across his cheeks like fog rolling in from the ocean. "Something is wrong," he muttered. His words were starting to slur. Diana, something is wrong with me." Diana jumped up from her seat. "Kevin, what is it? What is happening?" He stumbled backward, knocking into the china cabinet. One of Eleanor's teacups fell and shattered on the floor. Kevin grabbed the edge of the table, trying to steady himself, but his legs buckled. He went down hard, his head bouncing off the tile with a sound that made Diana scream. I stayed in my seat. I watched my son convulse on the kitchen floor, foam forming at the corners of his mouth. I watched his eyes roll back, showing the whites. I watched Diana drop to her knees beside him, slapping his face, calling his name. "Call 911!" Diana screamed at me. "What are you doing? Call an ambulance!" I stood up slowly, like the old man they thought I was. "Oh dear," I said. "Oh no, what happened?" I reached for the phone. I dialed the numbers. I reported a medical emergency in a calm, measured voice. Possible cardiac event, male, 43 years old, unresponsive. The paramedics arrived in 7 minutes. Sarasota has excellent emergency services. They loaded Kevin onto a stretcher, started an IV, attached monitors that beeped frantically. Diana rode with him in the ambulance. I said I would follow in my car. I needed to lock up the house. When they were gone, I walked back to the dining room. I looked at the table, at the empty glasses, at the shattered teacup on the floor. I picked up Kevin's glass and rinsed it in the sink. I poured the remaining tea from my glass down the drain. Then I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. Not the flip phone Kevin had bought me, insisting smartphones were too complicated for a man my age. My real phone, a slim, encrypted device that contained the keys to accounts Kevin did not know existed. I dialed a number I had memorized years ago. "James," I said when the call connected. "It is Walter. The protocol we discussed. It is time to activate it." There was a pause on the line. James Whitfield was not just my attorney. He was the only person who knew the full extent of my wealth. He knew about the waterfront properties. He knew about the offshore accounts. He knew about the contingency plan we had developed 3 years ago, when I first began to suspect that my son saw me as nothing more than an obstacle between himself and an inheritance. "They tried tonight?" James asked. "Lorazepam in my tea," I said. "Enough to stop my heart. They have been gaslighting me for months, trying to make me look senile. Tonight was supposed to be the final act. And Kevin? He drank the tea instead. He is on his way to Sarasota Memorial right now." "Christ, Walter," James breathed. "That is going to complicate things." "It is going to simplify them," I replied. "They wanted to kill me and make it look natural. Now they are going to have to explain why Kevin had a near-fatal overdose of a sedative I do not even have a prescription for." "What do you need from me?" "Freeze everything," I said. "Every account they have access to, every credit card I authorized, every automatic payment. I want them to feel the walls closing in. And James, start preparing the evidence package. The recordings, the financial forensics, everything. We are going to court." I hung up and looked around my kitchen. The home Eleanor and I had built. The life they wanted to steal. The game had changed. My son thought he was hunting a weak old man. He had no idea he was fighting a pharmacist who understood exactly how to measure out justice, one precise dose at a time. I drove to the hospital with the windows down, letting the warm evening air wash over me. The sun was setting over the Gulf of Mexico, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. It was beautiful. Eleanor would have loved it. When I arrived at the emergency room, Diana was pacing in the waiting area. Her mascara had run, leaving dark streaks down her cheeks. She looked up when I walked in, and for a moment I saw raw hatred in her eyes before she covered it with a mask of concern. "Dad," she said, rushing over to grab my arm. "They are not telling me anything. They said something about a drug overdose, but that is impossible. Kevin does not use drugs." I patted her hand. "Let us sit down, Diana. Let us wait for the doctor." We sat in the hard plastic chairs. I kept my posture hunched, my movements slow. I let my hands tremble slightly. To anyone watching, I was just a frightened old man worried about his son. A doctor emerged 20 minutes later. He was young, tired-looking, with a stethoscope draped around his neck. "Family of Kevin Brennan?" We stood up together. "I am his father," I said. "This is his wife." The doctor nodded. "He is stable." We pumped his stomach and administered activated charcoal. "His vitals are normalizing." "Thank God," Diana breathed. "But doctor, what happened? What caused this?" "The toxicology report shows extremely high levels of lorazepam in his system. Ativan. It is a powerful sedative. Combined with other factors, it very nearly killed him." "But how?" Diana asked. "Kevin does not take sedatives." The doctor looked at her, then at me. "That is something you will need to discuss with the police. They are on their way." An overdose of this nature, especially with no prescription on record, raises some questions. Diana's face went pale. "Police?" "Standard procedure," the doctor said. "They just want to understand how this happened." I saw Diana's mind racing. I watched her calculate the angles, assess the damage, formulate a new plan. She was quick. I had to give her that. She turned to me. Her eyes narrowed almost imperceptibly. "Walter," she said slowly, "you made the tea today. Did you maybe get confused? Did you put something in it by accident?" I blinked at her. I let my mouth fall open slightly. "I what?" "Your medications," she pressed. "You take so many pills. Maybe you mixed something up. Maybe you thought you were adding sweetener, but you grabbed one of your prescriptions instead." This was it. She was pivoting, adapting. If Kevin could not pin the murder on natural causes, they would pin the accident on my senility. Two birds with one stone. Prove I was mentally incompetent, and they could still get the guardianship. They could still get the money. I do not think, I stammered. I would not have. It is okay, Dad. Diana put her arm around me, pulling me close. She smelled of expensive perfume and desperation. No one is blaming you, but you have to tell the police the truth. You have been having memory problems. You have been confused. This was just an accident. A uniformed officer approached us. He was holding a small notepad. Mr. Brennan, I am Officer Torres. I need to ask you some questions about what happened today. Diana squeezed my shoulder. Hard. A warning. I looked at the officer. I let my eyes water. I put a tremor in my voice. I am not sure, I said. I am so confused. Kevin and Diana came for lunch. I made tea. We ate sandwiches. And then Kevin fell down. I do not understand what happened. Did I do something wrong? Officer Torres studied my face. He saw an elderly man in distress. He saw exactly what I wanted him to see. Let us sit down, Mr. Brennan, he said gently. Take your time. Tell me everything you remember. I told him a story. A confused, scattered narrative of a lonely widower making lunch for his son. I mentioned the heat. I mentioned my medications. I mentioned that my memory was not what it used to be. I dropped hints, breadcrumbs that Diana was eagerly gathering. He has been declining, Diana interrupted at one point. His short-term memory is almost gone. Last week he forgot my name. We have been trying to get him into assisted living, but he refuses to go. The officer nodded sympathetically. He wrote something in his notepad. We will need to investigate further, he said. But right now, it sounds like this might have been an accidental exposure. Mr. Brennan, do you have lorazepam in your house? Any sedatives? I do not know, I said. I have so many pills. The pharmacy sends them every month. Little bottles everywhere. Diana nodded vigorously. He does. He has bags of medications he does not even remember taking. It is a disaster waiting to happen. This is exactly why we have been pushing for professional care. The seed was planted. The narrative was forming. Confused old man, dangerous living situation, loving family, trying to help. By the time the night was over, they would have laid the groundwork for an emergency guardianship hearing. I let them build their case. I let Diana call a doctor friend who would fax over a statement about my cognitive decline. I let her photograph my medicine cabinet, arranging the bottles to look chaotic and overwhelming. What they did not know was that every word they said was being recorded by the small device in my shirt pocket. What they did not know was that James Whitfield was already preparing a counterfiling. And what they certainly did not know was that the vial Kevin had hidden in his pocket, the one with his fingerprints all over it, was now sitting in a plastic evidence bag in my car, waiting for the right moment. Let them think they were winning. The reaction was just getting started. The next 3 days were a masterclass in psychological warfare. Diana moved into my house, claiming she needed to watch over me while Kevin recovered. In reality, she was building a prison. She hid my car keys, telling me it was not safe for me to drive. She took my phone, saying the buttons confused me. She changed the locks on the front door and told me it was because of a break-in scare in the neighborhood. But the gaslighting went deeper than simple restrictions. On the second night, I woke up to whispers. Diana was standing over my bed in the darkness, her face inches from mine. "You are losing your mind, Walter," she breathed. "You cannot trust your own thoughts. Everything you remember is wrong. You are dangerous. You hurt Kevin. You nearly killed your own son. You need help. You need to be locked away where you cannot hurt anyone else." She did this for 10 minutes. A steady stream of poison poured directly into my sleeping ears. She thought I was unconscious. She thought the Ambien she had crushed into my dinner would keep me under. But I had stopped eating anything she prepared on the first day. I had been palming the pills and flushing them down the toilet. I lay perfectly still, breathing evenly, while she tried to reprogram my subconscious. When she finally left, I opened my eyes and stared at the ceiling. Amateur, I thought. I had been dealing with pharmaceutical compounds my entire career. Did she really think I would not recognize the bitter undertaste of crushed sedatives in my food? The next morning, Diana made a show of being concerned. She presented me with a glass of orange juice and 2 pills. "Time for your blood pressure medication, Dad," she chirped. I looked at the pills. They were the wrong color. My actual blood pressure medication was white and oblong. These were small, round, and faintly blue. I took them from her palm. I pretended to put them in my mouth. I took a sip of juice. I pocketed the pills when she turned to get a napkin. "Good," she said, watching me swallow. "Now, let us get you dressed. We have an appointment today." "Appointment?" "With Dr. Morrison. He is a specialist. He is going to help us figure out what is wrong with your memory." Dr. Morrison was not a real doctor. I had already researched him. His license had been suspended 3 years ago for writing fraudulent prescriptions. He now made his living signing off on whatever paperwork his clients needed. No questions asked. They were going to have him declare me mentally incompetent. They were going to use his signature to get an emergency guardianship. And once they had legal control, they would drain whatever accounts they could access and dump me in the cheapest facility they could find. I let Diana drive me to the appointment. The office was in a strip mall between a nail salon and a pawn shop. Not exactly the Mayo Clinic. Dr. Morrison was a thin man with nervous eyes and nicotine stains on his fingers. He did not examine me. He did not run any tests. He just asked a series of leading questions. "Do you sometimes forget where you put things?" "Yes," I answered truthfully. "Everyone does." "Do you ever feel confused about what day it is?" "Occasionally." "Have you ever put objects in strange places, like food in the laundry hamper?" "I do not think so." Diana cleared her throat loudly. "Actually, doctor, just last week I found his wallet in the freezer, and 2 days ago he left the stove on for 6 hours. He nearly burned the house down." Morrison nodded, writing furiously on his clipboard. "Severe disorientation, dangerous behavior, risk to self and others." I wanted to object. I wanted to tell him Diana was lying. But I stayed quiet. I let the trap close around me. Because every word in that room was being recorded by the button camera hidden in my shirt. And Morrison's signature on that fraudulent evaluation was going to be the noose that hanged them all. The conservatorship hearing was scheduled for 2 days later. Diana was giddy with anticipation. Kevin, freshly discharged from the hospital and looking appropriately fragile, rehearsed his testimony in my living room. "Just stick to the script," Diana coached him. "He is dangerous. He nearly killed you. He cannot be left alone. We are doing this out of love." "Love," Kevin repeated, his voice flat. "Right. Out of love." I sat in my armchair, pretending to doze. I heard every word. That night, I made my move. At 2 in the morning, when the house was silent and Diana was asleep in the guest room, I retrieved my go bag from its hiding spot behind the water heater. Passport, cash, encrypted phone, hard drives, with all the evidence James and I had compiled. I dressed in dark clothes. I moved through my own house like a ghost. The back door was locked from the inside with a deadbolt that Diana did not have a key for. I had installed it myself, years ago, for hurricane security. I slipped out into the humid Florida night. James was waiting for me 2 blocks away, his Tesla silent as a whisper. I climbed into the passenger seat. "It is done," I said. "They are filing tomorrow morning. They think I am going to show up confused and helpless." James nodded. He handed me a thick folder. "The judge assigned to your case is Patricia Delgado. She has a reputation for being thorough. She is going to want to see evidence before she signs anything." "Then we give her evidence," I said. "All of it." The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Wood-paneled walls, fluorescent lights, the faint smell of old paper and anxiety. Diana and Kevin sat at the petitioner's table with their attorney, a slick man in an expensive suit who specialized in elder care cases, which meant he specialized in helping families take control of their elderly relatives' assets. Judge Delgado was a small woman with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She looked at the papers in front of her with visible skepticism. "The petitioners claim that Walter Brennan poses an imminent danger to himself and the public," she read aloud. "They cite a recent incident in which Mr. Brennan allegedly poisoned his son Kevin with a sedative drug, as well as evidence of progressive cognitive decline, including memory loss, confusion, and dangerous behavior. She looked up at Diana and Kevin. "That is correct, Your Honor," their attorney said smoothly. "We have a medical evaluation from Dr. Anthony Morrison documenting Mr. Brennan's deteriorated mental state. We are seeking emergency guardianship to protect both Mr. Brennan and the community." Judge Delgado flipped through the pages. "And where is Mr. Brennan?" "I do not see the respondent." Diana stood up. "He is missing, Your Honor. He wandered off sometime during the night. We have been searching everywhere. This is exactly the kind of dangerous behavior we are trying to prevent. He is out there somewhere, confused and vulnerable. We need the authority to find him and get him the help he needs." The judge frowned. "You want me to grant guardianship over a man who is not present to defend himself?" "Given the circumstances," Diana began. The courtroom doors swung open. I walked in, not shuffling, not trembling, not confused. I walked with the steady gait of a man who had spent 68 years building a life and was not about to let anyone take it away. I was wearing my best suit, the one Eleanor had picked out for me 20 years ago. James Whitfield walked beside me, carrying a briefcase that contained the complete destruction of my son's future. Kevin made a choking sound. Diana went pale. Judge Delgado looked at me over her reading glasses. "Mr. Brennan, I presume?" "Yes, Your Honor. I apologize for the dramatic entrance, but I felt it was important to demonstrate that I am neither missing nor confused. I am, however, very interested in preventing the fraud that is about to be perpetrated in your courtroom." "Fraud?" The opposing attorney sputtered. "Your Honor, this is exactly the kind of paranoid delusion we warned you about." I reached into James's briefcase and pulled out a stack of documents. I walked forward and placed them on the judge's bench. "These are the real medical records," I said, "from the Mayo Clinic, dated 1 week ago. Complete neurological workup including MRI, cognitive assessment, and blood panels. My brain function is in the 98th percentile for my age group. I am not senile, I am not delusional, and I am certainly not dangerous." The judge examined the documents. Her eyebrows rose. "This is quite different from Dr. Morrison's evaluation." "Dr. Morrison lost his medical license 3 years ago," James interjected. "He now makes his living providing fraudulent paperwork for a fee. We have bank records showing a $5,000 payment from Kevin Brennan to Morrison's personal account made 2 days ago." Deanna shot to her feet. "That is a lie." "Sit down, Mrs. Brennan," the judge said coldly. I pulled out my phone and connected it to the courtroom's audio system. "May I, Your Honor?" "Proceed." The courtroom filled with sound, Diana's voice crystal clear. "Just stick to the script. He is dangerous. He nearly killed you. We are doing this out of love." Then Kevin's voice. "Love. Right. Out of love." And then more. Hours of recordings. Diana whispering poison into my ears at night. Kevin discussing how they would liquidate my assets. The two of them rehearsing their lies. But the worst was yet to come. I pulled up the final recording. The video from my dining room, captured by the camera I had hidden in the light fixture months ago. The screen showed Kevin at my table. It showed him pulling out the amber vial. It showed him pouring 3 drops into my tea, while Diana kept me distracted. The judge watched in silence. The color drained from Kevin's face. Diana started to cry. When the video ended, I spoke again. "My son attempted to murder me," I said. "When that failed, he and his wife attempted to have me declared incompetent so they could steal my assets. They gaslighted me, drugged my food, and hired a disgraced doctor to sign fraudulent papers. I have tolerated a great deal from my family over the years, but I will not tolerate being killed." Judge Delgado looked at Kevin and Diana. She looked at their attorney, who was gathering his papers with the expression of a man whose ship was rapidly sinking. "Bailiff," the judge said, "please take Mr. and Mrs. Kevin Brennan into custody. I am remanding them pending investigation for attempted murder, fraud, and elder abuse." Kevin lunged to his feet. "This is insane. He is lying. He set us up. Dad, tell them this is a misunderstanding." I looked at my son. I looked at the face that had once beamed up at me from a crib. The boy I had taught to ride a bike. The man I had trusted with my name and my legacy. I set nothing up, Kevin, I said quietly. I simply switched the glasses. You poisoned yourself with the drugs you intended for me. Everything that followed was your choice. They led them out in handcuffs. Diana was sobbing hysterically. Kevin kept twisting around to stare at me, his expression cycling through rage and disbelief, and finally, settling on something like fear. Good. The courtroom emptied. I sat in one of the wooden pews and let the silence wash over me. James stood nearby, giving me space. It is over, he said finally. Not quite, I replied. There is one more thing I need to do. The county jail smelled like disinfectant and regret. I sat on one side of the scratched plexiglass. Kevin was escorted to the other side by a guard. He was wearing an orange jumpsuit that matched the color of his face. He picked up the phone. His hand was shaking. "Dad," he said, his voice cracked. "You have to help me. I cannot survive in here. Diana is falling apart. The lawyer says we are looking at 20 years. 20 years, I repeated. For trying to kill your father and steal his money. I was not going to kill you." Kevin leaned forward, desperation seeping from every pore. "It was just supposed to knock you out. We were going to put you in a home. It was for your own good. You are old, Dad. You do not need all that money. You do not need that big house. We were going to take care of everything. By murdering me. By helping you," he insisted. "You were supposed to just go to sleep and never wake up. It would have been peaceful. Better than rotting away alone in that house." I let the silence stretch between us. "Do you know why I never told you about the money, Kevin?" He blinked. "What money?" "The real money. The properties I sold. The investments. I am worth $12 million, Kevin. I have been for years." His mouth fell open. 12 million. "I never told you because I wanted to see who you really were. I wanted to know if you loved me or if you loved my wallet. I spent 4 years after your mother died, watching, waiting, hoping you would prove me wrong. Dad, you did not prove me wrong." I leaned closer to the glass. "You proved that the only thing I meant to you was an obstacle. You looked at your father and saw a sack of meat standing between you and your inheritance." Kevin started to cry. Real tears this time. Or maybe fake. I could not tell anymore. I did not care. "What are you going to do with it?" he asked through his sobs. "The money. Are you going to spend it all on lawyers to keep us locked up?" "I thought about it," I said. "I thought about a lot of things. I thought about revenge. I thought about making you suffer the way you made me suffer." I reached into my pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. I pressed it against the glass. "This is a receipt," I said. "As of this morning, the Walter Brennan estate has been fully liquidated. $6 million to the National Center for Elder Abuse Prevention. $6 million to the Florida Coalition for Seniors. The house is sold. The accounts are closed. There is nothing left." Kevin stared at the paper. His tears stopped. His face went blank. "You gave it away," he whispered. "You gave away $12 million. I gave it to people who will use it to protect other parents from their children." I stood up, keeping the phone pressed to my ear. "You wanted to put me in a home and take my money. Now you are the one in a cell, and the money does not exist anymore. I hope that when you are lying in your bunk at night, you think about that. I hope you think about the fact that if you had just been a decent son, you would have inherited everything." Kevin slammed his fist against the glass. The guard stepped forward. "I hate you," Kevin screamed. "I hate you, old man. I hope you die alone. I hope you rot." I hung up the phone. I turned and walked away. His muffled screaming followed me down the corridor, but I did not look back. The sun was setting when I stepped outside. The sky was painted in shades of gold and crimson, the same colors Eleanor used to love. I walked to the parking lot where James was waiting. Next to his Tesla was something new. A 30-foot RV, silver and gleaming, with the keys sitting on the hood. "The dealer dropped it off an hour ago," James said. "Paid in cash, as requested. It has got everything. Kitchen, bedroom, satellite TV. You could live in it for years." I picked up the keys. They were warm from the sun. "Thank you, James. For everything." He shook my hand. "Where are you going to go?" I thought about it. I thought about the mountains of Colorado, the deserts of Arizona, the coastline of Oregon, all the places Eleanor and I had talked about visiting but never did because there was always work, always responsibility, always some reason to stay put. Everywhere, I said. Nowhere in particular. Just away from here. I climbed into the driver's seat. The engine started with a satisfying rumble. The air conditioning kicked on, filling the cab with cool air. I pulled out of the parking lot and merged onto the highway. In the rearview mirror, I watched Sarasota shrink and disappear. The town where I had raised a son. The town where I had buried a wife. The town where I had nearly died at my own dining table. I did not miss it. The road stretched out ahead of me, endless and open. I turned on the radio. Classic country filled the cab, a song about freedom and second chances. I was 68 years old. I had no family left. I had no home. I had given away everything I owned except this RV and the clothes on my back. But as I drove west, watching the sun dip below the horizon and the first stars emerge in the darkening sky, I realized I had something more valuable than money. I had freedom. I had time. I had the rest of my life to live exactly as I chose. Eleanor would have understood. She always said that the best adventures start when you stop planning and just go. So I went. They say blood is thicker than water, but I learned that greed is a solvent that dissolves every bond. For years I believed my role was to provide, to sacrifice, to hold the family together no matter the cost. I thought my silence was strength. In reality, it was the blindfold they used to lead me to my own grave. The greatest gift I ever gave myself was the courage to remove the blindfold and see my family for who they truly were. Not who I wanted them to be, not who they pretended to be, who they actually were when they thought no one was watching. If you are sitting at a table where poison is being served, you have two choices. You can drink it and die, or you can switch the glasses and walk away. It is never too late to walk away. It is never too late to choose yourself. If you have ever had to cut ties with family members who saw you as nothing more than a source of income, tell me your story in the comments. And remember, the best revenge is not destroying them. It is living a good life without them.